All right, sorry for the late start by a couple minutes here. I literally just got through the door, raced home from Dave Meltzer's house where I watched WrestleMania Night 1, and now we're just going to hit everything that we can. I don't plan to leave folks, we're not going to go super long. I hope to get in and out within an hour, but Jeremy Finestone, Steven Conway are here joining me. Long night of just night one of WrestleMania, by the way, guys. We got a whole other one to do tomorrow night. Well, Steven will be with me. Jeremy will be driving home. So maybe we'll get a call from the road or something from Jeremy. But okay, so lots to talk about. So we might as well just get right into it. We were promised a Stone Cold Steve Austin sighting on this show. We were wondering everything about what it was going to be. Was it going to be just an interview segment? Was it going to be a match? They didn't advertise a match until tonight when Kevin Owens was in the ring and said that, he didn't just want to talk to Austin. He actually did want to have a match with him. No holds barred. And I don't know how long this match was. It felt like it was about 10 minutes or so. I know they were trying to say that Austin was not tired. He looked very tired to me, especially when he's trying to inhale all of those beers to like they were water. I think literally that's what they were for him was just like water. But they did a match. It was a little bit back and forth. We saw Austin take a suplex to the outside cement. He gave a couple suplexes on the stage. He took a stunner. He ran into the ring post. Finally, Kevin Owens brought a chair into the ring and slammed it against the top rope. Austin moved out of the way. He banged himself in the face, took a stunner, match over, took another stunner after. But that was the deal here. We knew that if we were going to get a match, that was going to be the deal. But they gave us more than what I fully expected. Steven, do you regret not being there live to see Austin?
It looked like everybody in that building was having the time of their lives. So it definitely delivered on the customer satisfaction aspect. It was one of those things, like you said, he did a heck of a lot more than we really thought he was going to do. And I certainly more than I thought he was going to do. He's been very careful about protecting his neck over the years, really hasn't done a whole lot physically. And you can kind of see why he wasn't moving. Well, he moved like a 57-year-old man, didn't he? But and one that had been through the ringer with his body. But can't say he didn't come through. A lot of that was a lot of fun. They brawled pretty well. Took more bumps than we thought. Like you said, overall, the people were having a great time. Everyone was up on their feet. They were going crazy. Their hands were in the air. They were responding to everything they did. It was exactly what everybody wanted. And you can't really send a stadium full of people home much happier than that. It accomplished everything it was hoping to.
Jeremy, I feel like we've been trying to prognosticate this for forever now.
Right.
We've talked about this ad nauseum. And so I guess I'm kind of wondering, did you get what you had hoped? Was it everything that you hoped it would be?
Yes, 100%. I don't remember the last time I finished watching a WrestleMania and just walked away feeling just like thoroughly fulfilled and satisfied by the ending of that show. It was fantastic, giving us a half hour of that show just for that segment. You got 15 minutes to talk. You got 15 minutes to fight. You got 5 minutes of celebration afterwards. Everybody went home happy after that one.
And so here's a question, because I was nervous. Now, some people may ask, why would you possibly be nervous? Stone Cold Steve Austin is back and he's doing a match. And I wrote a tweet because Tim Hardaway, the Warriors, the great Warriors player, who'd been in some, in some trouble for saying things that, belief wise were just very bad. And he has since apologized. But I was just like, oh my God, Tim Hardaway and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hardaway goes in the Hall of Fame, Austin back at WrestleMania, the 24 years older, years younger version of me. You can't tell me nothing. Like I was, that was like my mentality. But as I'm watching this match, I'm just going like, don't get hurt. Don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. Don't get hurt. And I don't know if he did or not. I imagine he's going to be pretty sore at least. But he did a whole lot more than I thought. Now, here's the question that I was kind of leading up to, which is, did you guys need all of that, or would the first 15 minutes of the talking and then after boom stunner, would that have been enough, or do you think you needed this, Steven?
I think that if they had just done a thing where they got into a physical confrontation, Owens tries to whip Austin into the corner, Austin reverses it, Owens takes the big bump, stomp a mud hole in him, Owens staggered to his feet, stunner, and that's it. I think people would have been happy. I think that this delivered a heck of a lot more. But I think if they had done that, that was really what everybody was in for. The mud hole thing, flip him off in the corner, of course, stunner, that was really the big parts of it that everyone wanted to see. And they did give everybody that. It's just they gave them a whole lot more. I do think that if they had only done that, people would still be talking about it as a really cool WrestleMania moment. Seeing an entire match, I think, makes this a heck of a lot more memorable for the people that were there and that were watching. So they could have made people happy with that, but I think they over-delivered, and it's going to turn out well for everybody. I think people are much happier with this, but I do think that would have been successful anyhow.
All right, I'm gonna keep talking, but I got to fix my camera. Something's funky with my camera, but I think everyone can still hear me. Okay, Jeremy, same question. Would that have been enough, or did you need this? Did your inner Stone Cold Steve Austin fan need what we saw tonight?
It didn't need what we saw. I felt like a kid again. And I'm going to kind of flip that question. I feel like what we saw was what Stone Cold needed to happen in order to like be satisfied with coming in and doing what he was going to do. A lot of talk about his pride has happened in the past about if he's going to do this, he wants to do it right. And we got an idea of what right would be. That was a note perfect finale for what I am understanding is his retirement match.
Right.
So if you were to have a retirement match and it wasn't to do the job for The Rock, this is the one. This is how you'd lay it out. And it was knowing it's the retirement match, looking at your question again. Yes, I needed that.
Okay. So I think, like, for me, if I wasn't so anxious and worried that he was going to hurt himself, I loved it. Like, you know, we're in a chat thread with my Fight Game podcast co-host, John the Rocka, and he was like a kid in a candy store. He loved it. And John and I have basically been watching from the beginning of 97, and we're in through April of 98. Ross, we're seeing Austin like in his run, and it's been great. But just, you know, the live streamers who are catching it with us, Ryan said the amount of beer he drank was like a college kid. And our buddy Larry said it wasn't quite Sting, but it was awesome seeing him take those bumps. And that's exactly what Dave Meltzer said when we were watching. He's like, he's not quite Sting. And that was because you kind of compare them because of the age, and Sting's even a few years older than Austin. But that's kind of what I was worried about is this a good memory for his last match? And I feel like, you know, if you go back, that match with Rock in WrestleMania 19, it was a really good match, but knowing the story around it, it is like a sad situation, right? Like during that weekend, he has to go to the hospital because his blood pressure is like literally out of control. So for him, and this is kind of to piggyback what Jeremy said, to him being able to close the door like this, and look, I mean, you know, hopefully for his value to this company that is making way more money than it has ever made before. And really, you know, I bet you if you ask, you know, you give Vince McMahon a little bit of truth serum, this company's going public off of the back of Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? And so for him to be able to go, okay, I'm going out now. This WrestleMania is bigger than ever. I helped build this. We're back in Texas. I can do this night one. That's what I loved about this whole situation. But so great moment. You know, it's going to be remembered more so as a moment than as a match, I think, which I think that's kind of the theme to this show. Is the matches were solid, but the moments, I think, are what we're going to remember.
Yeah.
Keisaku mentioned that the first suplex on the concrete had him nervous. He looked like he was having the time of his life out there tonight, though.
I held my breath on that move. I held it so hard, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" And there was that moment afterwards, where like they wouldn't have done it if he didn't think he could take it.
Yeah,
And
and I wonder how much of that was him going like, I have to do this to show that I was serious. I imagine he trained somewhat in a ring, probably did a few things. I don't know how much, but you know, that's it seemed like, okay, like this is what I have to do. I don't know. Is that like how many? I mean, he's only that wasn't really his style when he was going strong, right? It was like taking stuff on the outside. It's more like him going like, okay, this is what people do now, and I have to show that I can do this thing now.
How much work do you think he did with Owens before the match? Do you think they spent like a week together, a few weeks? Because they looked very comfortable with each other.
That's a good question. I mean, it seems like he was around. Obviously, Texas is not a stray place for him. Seemed like he was around all week, but he was doing other stuff, like he's launching his beer brand, and
training.
Training, but he was also doing a concert of some sort this week as well. Like he was like the MC or something. Doing
really, he has a beer brand. I wonder where I could go to find out. Maybe get a shot of the logo or hear the name of it a few times.
All right, I'm not a beer drinker, but if I saw that beer, I'd have to buy it. Have any of you had the beer before?
No, but I imagine he's probably going to be using his new weed brand tonight.
Oh yeah, yeah. Him and Mike Tyson and Ric Flair, they all got the cannabis stuff going on. All right, we'll circle back and we'll talk a little bit about the match when we go over the entire card. Before we move on, I just want to mention that we do have a PO-op for this show. I'm not going to explain the whole thing. Everyone's heard me ad nauseum talk about the digital wallet and the PO-op app and everything. But if you want to get the PO-op specifically for this show, our WrestleMania recap of night one, the secret word is Bruise Weekend, so you can grab that. But let's move on because Cody Rhodes debuted. I don't know if you guys heard about that. The worst kept secret since CM Punk coming to AEW. I do like the gamesmanship of it all, though. From what I do understand, there was a little bit of a snag when it came to negotiations, and Cody was let's just say his people were telling others that he had not signed, and it wasn't a done deal in any way. So I really appreciated, maybe not from the news perspective of this. I'm sure Dave was like, "Come on, guys, just let's stop doing this." But I enjoyed the mystery of it all. It was the like we knew he was coming, but there was that little piece of doubt that people thought about, and I really enjoyed the whole leaving AEW and talking about WWE and what could he do, and are they going to bring him in, and how are they going to push him, and we talked about this on the Twitter Spaces the other night. This is the opportunity for WWE to show talent across the wrestling world that they are serious about, really being competitive and bringing in people from the outside. So all that happens. Cody debuts his music from AEW, which I guess he owns. American Nightmare trademark, the art, the T-shirts go up immediately. As I'm checking to see how, if people are going nuts or not, Variety has an interview that literally drops the second he comes out on the stage. So he's got an interview. Like they did this thing so well. And it would have meant less if it didn't deliver in the ring. And for maybe the first 5 minutes of this match, I was like, I don't know. But they picked it up. It ended up being a really good match. Seth Rollins should get all the kudos in the world for really, really carrying this thing. And Cody did his part too, but Seth, really stitched this thing together, I thought. And really, really good match. Cody wins. There was a lot of crazy near falls. There was a pedigree tease, but then he turns it into that power bomb. I wanted him to use the pedigree. I thought, that'd be great if he uses it in his first match back at WWE. But no, He wins with 2 crossroads, and then he does another. I forgot. And then he did the dusty. He did the dusty punches in the elbow. Then he did the 3rd crossroads, and he beat Seth. So, Jeremy, was this all you expected it to be?
I was tremendously pleased with this match, to the point where it overexceeded all the expectations that I had. I was pretty public about how I felt about Cody and how he wasn't someone that mattered at the end of AEW, and my main concern was him feeling like he was a consequential person when he came to WWE. And all those fears were allayed the minute he rose through the stage. That crowd went nuts for him. He was the returning hero. He was coming home from a 10-year odyssey, it felt like, and they were just ready to see their kid back. And he was all grown up. It was pretty fantastic. There was an interview that dropped a few minutes ago with David Shoemaker, and a couple of things that were mentioned in there. Why Seth was the opponent for this match, and Cody said that it needed to be him because in his mind, Seth was one of Dusty's kids in NXT, and it was important to him that he prove his worth, that he was actually one of Dusty's kids and he just belonged at the dance. So that was really interesting. And then he also shined a light on his negotiations with WWE at first. So it turned out Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard themselves flew down to his home and they visited him. And Cody, if nothing led to it, he would have been over the moon that they made the effort to come to him and negotiate. But
okay, you know why I roll my eyes at that.
Right. But what it led to was
Vince McMahon is not everybody's daddy. I know they tried it. Undertaker said it. Vince McMahon is not everyone's dad. He's not even that great of a dad, according to Shane, right? So,
right.
Okay. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
As he declares it himself, this is all Cody's point of view. What he said to Vince is, what type of character changes do you want out of this if I go there? And Vince told him point blank to his face, your gimmick isn't broken. There's no need to fix it. And that to him was the most gratification, and he was ready to go. He was ready to go back to WWE for that line alone. So that's the Cody story, and that's how he felt about it. He said that nobody knew. Owens kept pushing him for information, like to confirm it, and he wouldn't tell Owens, even though Owens basically said he knew. Cody still wouldn't do it. And he said a couple other people, like Orton, went after him, but he wouldn't tell anybody. And it was to the point where he was in sweats at the ramp, and he went up through the ramp, and that was the first he saw of the WrestleMania backstage or the stage or anything else.
What a worker.
What a guy, right?
All right. So the thing that everyone wants to know about is this AEW departure. Tony Khan has said that that's a secret. Cody has said that's a secret. I imagine something will come out about that at some point. This was a wrestling war. They will weaponize it in some way. The thing that I thought was very interesting is that he said it was a personal matter and we couldn't move past it. Now, I imagine it was a bunch of different things, not just one specific thing. But being a personal matter, what could that possibly mean? Because this is like the first hint around something. Now, could it have been a loss of power, which people have intimated? Could it have been a loss of control? Could it have been a loss of influence? Could he have overstayed his welcome? He said, it's time to go, right? It's time to change territories, is what he told Big Dave Meltzer. What do you guys think about that quote, Steven? We'll start with you, and just there's still a mysteriousness around what happened, and I'm not sure we can pinpoint one or two things, but it does seem that there were some hard feelings if it's a personal matter.
It seems so, and there have been a lot of talk about things that Cody wasn't getting along with the rest of the group. Kenny and the Young Bucks are very tight, and that Cody wasn't so tight with them, didn't necessarily get along with them. Also heard that perhaps there were some issues with what Brandy was doing at the company and her spot, and maybe people thought that maybe she wasn't deserving of the TV time she was getting. That would obviously cause a lot of friction with Cody. So there probably were a lot of layers to it, such as that. And perhaps the executive vice presidents over the course of the years just kind of grew apart in their feelings on what direction the company should take and what their characters should take. So by the time the contract comes up, maybe everybody is just a little bit tired of looking at each other from across the booking room table. And Cody feels like, well, there's a bunch of them and one of me, and maybe this is the time to make the move. So that's kind of the way I read it anyway. I don't know. I wasn't in there certainly anywhere near it, but that's the way it kind of felt, because the rest of them do seem to be pretty good social friends, pretty good professional friends. And if Cody was the odd person out, it's not easy sitting in a room full of people where you feel like you're the one that everyone's just kind of looking at out of the corner of their eye. And that's an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
Contract was coming up. Vince was interested. Perfect storm.
Jeremy, any thoughts?
I think it starts with the B and ends with an I. I really think Brandy, something happened that became the relationship was untenable professionally. Cody feels very strongly about family, as I've come to understand in the past. And, you know, he looked at his options and was saying it's time to go, and reading the room and reading the support and reading everything that he had. It just Brandy.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be Brandy. We heard that in the beginning. Cody did say that, everyone has an opinion and nobody's got it right so far. So I'm not sure about that. But all right, let's move on. By the way, I showed my mug. Here it is. Yes, it is a Brandon Walsh 90210 mug. Sorry. I showed it. I figured I must as well tell people what it is. Okay, so there was another match here. Called actually we'll put Preet's comment up. Preet says, I know Cody is selling what Vince told him in the article, but Cody believing what Vince told him makes me SMH with a smirk.
Me too.
You know, I don't believe it, but I feel like if we're gonna talk the breaking news, like Cody dropping a major interview, we kind of have to talk about the frame of reference and then have our little take on it.
We can parse it and we can have our own opinion on it for sure.
Right.
All right, so there was another match here. It was Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. Now, we heard, I'm not 100% sure exactly the reason, but there were rumors that Ronda was upset, really mad. And those rumors, we thought, stemmed from the idea that she was not going to be the main event when she was promised to be the main event. After that match, I cannot imagine that match being the main event. It was not a main event style of match. The babyface pretty much got hosed there, which does not send the crowd home very happy at all. But so then there was a wonder. Was she mad because of the finish of the match? Now, Ronda's a competitor. Who knows how mad she was? Was she? But she could have been in a zone, whatever it was, right? Maybe it was just the face that she was portraying. But they'd built this story. Ronda is this big star coming back. She's going to main event. She's bringing so many more eyeballs to the company. We know that Charlotte is Fox's ace in the hole. They really wanted her on SmackDown, and it's this real tug of war between these two top women. And that match, I would say for most of it, was a little clunky. I don't think it worked necessarily the way that they probably had envisioned it. There were spots, I thought, where the crowd really got into it. Like there was the heel hook spot where they really thought Charlotte was going to tap. And they were kind of fired up because I think they anticipated, this is going to be the finish. This is really cool. This is Ronda at her best, using a submission hold. And then it became Monday Night Raw. I don't know how I would describe the finish as, not what the rest of this show did fairly well, which is build to big moments and deliver big moments. Same thing happened in the NXT main event, by the way. And so We get to the end of the match. Ronda has her beat with the armbar. Charlotte is tapping, but the ref had just gotten bumped. Ronda goes over to the ref, tries to wake the ref up. She loses with a boot to the face. And that is your finish, and that is where Ronda Rousey loses. Now, I am assuming that they're just building to a rematch, and this is going to be the main event of WrestleMania Backlash. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they did so many things well on this show, save for showing us video packages we've already seen 100 times. This stood out a little bit as maybe the thing that they did not get right. Steven, what were your thoughts when you saw this?
Yeah, well, I was suspicious as soon as I saw Charles Robinson, and I'm not trying to be cute about that. It seems like when they need some sort of screw job finish involving Charlotte, I don't know if she just feels comfortable working with him, or if there's anything else with that they just feel like when they need something weird involving Charlotte, it's Robinson. So when I saw that he was refereeing the match, I just thought there might be shenanigans in this. But yeah, and so it's I didn't hate the match. I mean, it certainly wasn't on the level of Bianca and Becky, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. And it was, you got to remember that Ronda's only done about 30 of these, and she still is really inexperienced. I thought Charlotte worked very hard, tried to carry her as best she could, but there were some odd moments in the thing. They hit each other pretty hard. They laid their stuff in. You saw the chops landed certainly on Ronda, and there were a few other things that looked pretty good, and other stuff that just looked a little odd. But in the end, it's clear that the whole idea is to run this thing back and keep this story going. And so they did kind of a weird finish right there. And it was not satisfying, and it wasn't a main event finish, but they also knew they had Austin, and that whatever they could do in this match, they could always just smooth it over with that. And that no one was going to worry about going home unhappy because they were going to have the Austin thing. This way, Ronda can still say that she was in the main event of WrestleMania because she was in the final, she was scheduled to be in the final match. She can say the last one was impromptu, the way they did it, and they can go home with that and take it into Backlash. I guess that was the idea. Was it a great execution of that idea? No, it really wasn't. It could have been done a little bit better, but probably a longer match than Ronda was really ready to do again on her comeback. She's been doing things very, very quickly on TV. This was a lot longer. Probably could have been cut down a little bit from there too. That might have helped, actually. It might have gone on a little bit too long. Might have been more than she could really handle at this point.
So, Jeremy, we have been, I don't know how critical you've been, but I've been pretty critical of the build to this. I just thought I didn't need to see them do the same thing over and over, week after week after week. I thought less would have been more here. And that was kind of the theme to a lot of this stuff outside of Brock and Roman was, there were some secrets and there was less Austin. There's barely any Austin. There's no Cody at all. And they overdid it on SmackDown side, I thought, with Ronda and Charlotte here. And it wasn't working. Like, there were so many bad moments, like that one spot where she's supposed to hit her head on the table at the contract signing, and it didn't work. We saw the clips of it before it happened because it was taped. After all that, I thought they had to come out and deliver, a B+, A- at worst match. And I don't know. I think we got like maybe the B- C+ version of this match. What did you think?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you. B-, C+ at best. There were a couple of things in this match that seemed really odd to me. I don't know why the logic was to not have Ronda come out victorious in this match. The whole build was was her taking out Charlotte, choosing Charlotte, deciding this is how it's going to be. I'm going to have the match that we all already had. And their chemistry was anti-chemistry the entire build. So when you're watching this and you're putting it together in your WWE, like you want to make sure these two never wrestle each other ever again. Like, get it over with and move on, like build other feuds, because they don't work well with each other. And it's not going to be gratifying the next time they do, because I don't know if this is going to be an impetus for them to want to work harder or just to get through the feud. Because Ronda kind of felt like she got the okie dokie on this one. And Like, that's not a wise move. And if you're going to back Charlotte and decide that she's the one that you want, like, holding the title for a little while longer, you know, like, how long are you going to make sure Charlotte is the priority? And that to me is it's interesting because when I'm watching SmackDown, Charlotte shouldn't be the priority to me.
All right, let's quickly talk about the other women's title match, Becky against Bianca. They came out really hot. You could tell they really, really wanted to have a good match. I thought the first 5 minutes was a little bit of try hard and maybe not great execution, but somewhere around there, it started to work and the crowd was into it. They knew, I think they knew they were getting a Bianca moment. They knew that the SummerSlam thing was going to be reversed. They knew that their babyface was who had been crowned at the previous WrestleMania, the first show with fans back, that there was going to be that moment there. So they had, I would say the last half, maybe the last 60% of the match was really good, but there were some botches there too. They were trying some stuff. They were really trying hard to have that match, but by the end of it, I think they did have they did have that last, the last half of it was really, really good. So Steven, what do you think? Bianca wins. It seemed like her time coming. We had to sit through that terrible Survivor Series finish to get to here. Was the payoff worth it?
I think it ended up being worth it. I agree that the road to get here was a little bit bumpy, but I think in the end, that pop that she got when she hit the KOD, and that was an outstanding KOD, by the way. That was one of the better ones she's ever hit, and Becky took it beautifully. Had the right finish to that match. The crowd was ready for it, counting along with the referee. 1, 2, 3, big pop at the end. Thought it was good. I actually liked the beginning. I liked that she hit the manhandle early and they teased the idea that they might do it again. And then after that, Bianca had to be in survival mode because they played it up like she had been damn near killed, and then had to play catch up the rest of the match. I thought that was good psychology for what the match was going to do, which was just have her finally climb this mountain and overcome the obstacle that Becky Lynch has been for. There were some really impressive things in there. Yeah, there were some weird, a couple of weird things. There was I think that move where she got kicked in the face was supposed to be turned into a power bomb. I think that's what that was supposed to be. Didn't quite work out, but you could see Becky calling spots and getting them back on track. I wasn't worried about that. Second rope 450. That's impressive. You got a lot less time to be in the air. She still got around beautifully on it. I also like that they did that New Japan count out tease that WWE rarely does, where the referee, you think, and WWE does enough really stupid, lame finishes that it was in your head that they might do this. And then to see her just bounce up and slide under the ropes got a big pop, because WWE doesn't do that often, where someone slides in just barely from a dead spot.
Utilizing their own terrible booking as part of the booking.
Some of it because you're just worried that, they are actually going to do this damn count out finish, aren't they? I'm not even going to look. Oh, okay, she's back in. Yeah. But Becky was on fire in this one as well. You could tell that Bianca understood the moment. And of course, she came through last year with Sasha. So that's 2 years in a row she's beaten somebody that's considered one of the top dogs in the women's division. And now she's securely one of them after taking a half step back after that SummerSlam thing. So I thought it accomplished what it needed to accomplish. It wasn't perfect from SummerSlam to here, but in the end, the crowd was loving the fact that Bianca got her coronation again.
Jeremy, did you have this or the Cody Seth match as your match of the night?
At the time, or overall? Because I didn't have the Cody Seth match as my match of the night. But I think this one was better than, like, technically better than the Cody Seth match. But I like the Cody Seth match better.
Okay, wait. You confused me with what you just said.
I thought Becky and Bianca had a match that was technically more sound. Storytelling, psychology, everything that you needed for a big payoff to a feud.
Right.
And for me, that was more gratifying than the event spectacle of the moves, even though the psychology was more explained after the match. of why Seth and Cody hit the beats that they did.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna test. We have a guest coming, doing a run-in.
Ooh,
Someone who was there live at the show.
exciting.
Nice.
Someone who's been interacting with WWE superstars all weekend. It is Paul Fontaine. Let's see if this
Yes.
works. Paul, can we hear you?
Yeah. The question is, can you see me?
Yeah,
No,
we
we
can.
can see
Okay,
you. It's
all
a little
right.
dark, but it
Yeah.
worked. It's working out. It's good.
Yeah. No, it was quite the show, quite the weekend so far. We missed the main event. I don't know if you've seen. It was a little much. The initial pops when people come out,
Right.
like Emily gets startled.
yes.
When they
okay.
announced that it was going to be a match, the sustained noise that happened was just overwhelming. And honestly, a lot of the people in the section were having the same issue because of the section we were in. It was a great show. It's funny. I feel the same way as Jeremy, I think, and I don't know. Like I would try to explain it slightly differently. Like I thought Becky and Bianca had the match of the night in my mind,
Mhm.
but I do believe that I enjoyed the whole experience of Cody Seth more.
Yeah.
So it may not have been, like if I'm giving star ratings, I probably give a higher star rating to Becky and Bianca. But I would say, if you ask me what was my favorite match, my favorite from start to finish, the entrances, the match, the post match, everything, it was Cody Seth. I think that over delivered.
So,
Where-
what number WrestleMania is this for you live, by the way?
My second.
Okay,
I've
so
been to both Dallas ones.
okay,
Yeah.
great, fantastic. Because I was at the Dallas one as well.
Yeah.
I
And-
will too.
Okay, so three of us. Steven, aren't you in Texas?
I am I'm in Austin.
That's a long way. Fair
I'm in
enough.
Austin. It's a ways.
I mean,
yes.
Steve made it.
And
but-
and
Not
I've
as
been
far
to
as Canada.
and I've been to a stadium WrestleMania. I've been to 3 WrestleManias. I was at the Chicago portion of WrestleMania 2. I was at WrestleMania 13,
Wow.
and I was at 8. And at WrestleMania 8, I spent the entire thing. We had floor seats, and I spent the entire show staring at the back of people's heads or at the video screen way up there.
Yeah, welcome to my world today.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that swore me off stadium wrestling shows after that one.
Where
Okay.
was
but,
8? Indianapolis?
Yes.
Yeah, that was at the Hoosier Dome. I got Piper and Bret Hart, and then Savage and
Ooh.
and Flair out of that one. And then of course
Nice.
I got to see the big I Quit Austin Hart match in 13. So.
and the refrigerator Perry Battle Royal.
The biggest thing in the world to us. And 11 years old and seeing some of the Chicago Bears who
yeah.
had just won the Super Bowl, and Andre the Giant, and my favorite guys, the British Bulldogs, won the title. So I was a very happy kid.
All these give me flashback to Dallas, where Charlotte beat Sasha
Okay,
and Becky 3 years ago.
that's my big what if. What if
Yeah.
Sasha wins that match after that tremendous entrance with Snoop Dogg?
Then we never
yeah.
get Becky Mania 2 years
Yeah, it's
later.
very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why I asked you that is because I wanted to get your perspective. Now, the WrestleMania 38 post-pandemic, the Peacock era, a little bit different from WrestleMania 32. Still the network, but one night versus 2 nights. Like, did you sense any difference in the way that the show came off?
Okay, so this is interesting because my seats were different, but it was very close in area to where I sat for the last one. So I think the perspective was the same. And I would say that the crowd for this one was more up for the big stuff, but they not as much for the whole thing. They also didn't get worn out. And I think it'll be interesting to see tomorrow, but after, by the end of the show, it was starting to get a little worn out. But
Yeah.
I mean, we had the last 2 hours of the show was like that. The first Dallas, that was like a 7-hour show. The other thing is people are figuring out, don't come for 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock whenever the first match starts. Like we got there at about 6:40 with local, which is 4:40 your time. And we didn't even see any pre-show.
Yeah.
We saw the Titus O'Neil thing. That's all we saw. And we got a full show. I mean, we missed whatever was on the pre-show, whatever it was. I don't remember, and I don't feel like I missed anything, so it probably didn't matter. The battle royal, is that what it was?
No, there was no
No.
pre-show matches.
They
No
didn't do a
matches.
pre-show
Oh,
match. No.
Nope. So 2 hours of nothing.
No, the SmackDown last night had the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Oh,
And it
okay.
had the Intercontinental match.
Okay. Well,
But this was all talking head stuff.
Well, that's what. So I was talking to Dolph Ziggler about an hour and a half before we got to the show, and I'm like, "Why aren't you there?" And he's like,
Humble brag, by the way.
"Yeah, well, he's like, I don't want to be anywhere near there right now." So, take that for whatever it's worth. But I think he was going.
Yeah.
But,
okay. So WrestleMania 32 is actually a pretty bad analogy because the moments on that show that were memorable to me were Austin and Michaels and Foley coming out, and then the Rock thing, which was a big spectacle. But the actual matches, Shane and the Undertaker, it was way too long. Triple H and Roman Reigns was way too long. And so the old nostalgia overshadowed what the current thing was doing. There's a better mix on this show, right? There's a much better mix. And so I guess the question is more along the lines of, did you sense that what they were actually promoting, these big matches, I'm assuming because I watched it on TV, but the fans really enjoyed those matches for what they were, and it was about the current era of WWE as much as it was about Austin. Like there was a much better mix.
Well, I've been to 3 shows this weekend. I went to the ROH Supercard of Honor. I went to NXT this morning, and I went to WrestleMania Night 1. And I would say that of all the shows, this was the only show where the crowd was into every single match and knew every single person.
Even the Ronda match?
They were into it at times.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were matches on the other shows where the crowd didn't care at all, ever at all. They popped huge for the entrances for Ronda and Charlotte. So they cared about the characters. They just didn't like the match. Right. That's a difference. In these other things, like we had people that Josh Woods and Wheeler Yuta. AEW's been doing a great job with Wheeler Yuta. That crowd didn't know or care about him at all. I mean, it'll hit, like they'll start to, but this was a crowd. This was mostly a local crowd that went to that ROH show. The NXT was, there was a few of the people they didn't know. What's his name? The Italian guy. Where's my pizza? They chanted for him.
Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah, Tony D'Angelo. And there was at least one other guy that they didn't really care about. So whereas with here, they were into everything. And I would also
about Braun Breaker, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were chanting for Dolph more than Braun, in the crowd. But I would say that even when we got The Rock and Stone Cold and HBK on the last show, the pops for Cody and Stone Cold were much bigger here than anything on that first Dallas show.
And that Dallas show had more people.
Yes, it did.
Yes,
it did. Yeah. And but okay, here's a little inside baseball thing. When the Cody match was going on, we had these camera guys that walked in front of our row and told us to cheer for Cody. And they were recording it. And I think they used it later to sweeten the crowd.
Oh, did they?
I'm guessing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was surprised. And hey, Jake, you guys saw what's his name? The super fan I brought him into the show.
Yes,
I saw that. Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah, on your Twitter.
Yeah,
that was really cool. I mean, all your social media. If you want to follow, some of the stuff, Paul's been posting great stuff on.
He's a great dude. He's a great dude. Kind of weird, but
there's a couple of interesting parallels to the Dallas show from a few years ago. Sheamus was actually in a match against the New Jay in that year as well when he was in the League of Nations with Rusev and Alberto Del Rio. And AJ Styles had another Legends match that year.
Jericho.
He was facing Jericho.
Yep.
And then, we had the Charlotte match where she got her big win and arguably shouldn't have. And, what's old is new again, as they say.
All right. So you kind of mentioned that the Sheamus thing, and there's a quote here from Kofi. His match got cut. Now Sheamus just tweeted it was a emoticon of scissors. But Kofi says to be in the business for an extended duration of time is to experience the highest of the highs. It was the lowest of the lows, and his highest of the highs is 3 years ago in New York, right? Like where he wins the title. yes, it hurts, but we take it and we use it to propel us forward. Talk about a professional in every sense of the word. Kofi Kingston, tremendous guy. I felt really bad for them that they got cut. The New Day was supposed to have the match. It was Kofi and Xavier Woods against Sheamus and Ridge Holland with the little rascal Butch in the corner.
The Peaky Blinder himself.
And Sean Ross Sapp reported that was actually going to be the buffer between Charlotte and Ronda and the Austin thing. And then it just got cut. Now, unfortunately, WrestleMania, the TV version, I'm not talking about the live version, Paul. This TV version became an infomercial for everything WWE does. We saw the same video packages over and over. We saw that same Bobby Lashley video package that we've been seeing for the last 3 or 4 months. And you would think that it is more valuable to get your talent on the screen than it is to run these video packages to a fan base that is already there. We're watching the show. We're dialed in. You don't have to sell us anything. But it became a big infomercial. That would be the one flaw to the show that I would say is we had to sit through so much of that stuff that we'd previously seen. And I just, I was figuring out on Twitter, I was creating photos for our Instagram. I was just doing a bunch of other stuff. But these poor dudes, because of the way that they produced this show, they got cut out. I thought that was really frustrating.
It was the same live. We didn't get the same things you got, I don't think, but it was a bunch of just weird stuff. Like we were getting promo packages for matches that weren't happening. Like I mentioned, like after the Ronda match, we got a Bobby Lashley promo about the Almost feud. And I'm like, is that match happening now? Like I didn't even know about the New Day Sheamus. I mean, when you're there watching live, like you got especially with 2 nights, like you got no idea what's coming and what's not coming. And I didn't even know that match was even signed. Like, I follow this thing,
Well, Dave got confused too, because he tweeted out that they were going to do the Johnny Knoxville match after the Boogs situation happened, and they cut that match short. And so he tweeted, we're going to Johnny Knoxville. But no, they just played that video package, and then they played the video package to the very next match, which was it Logan Paul at that point?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And we didn't even see the Johnny Knoxville package, because my daughter, that's the only person she cared about, not Sydney or not Emily, but the other one. And she would have really enjoyed it, and then she would have been disappointed that we weren't getting the match. But she knew the match was tomorrow. And okay, she's not a wrestling fan, and she really does not want to go to this show tomorrow after sitting through it today, but she wants to see Johnny Knoxville, so she's gonna go.
Maybe you can get her into catering.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know some people.
Well, it was strange anyway. The New Day Ridge Holland Sheamus match was only added a week ago in the first place, and it was almost thrown in off of
like maybe when they were timing the show, they had extra time or something.
And then maybe they realized they didn't. Yeah, I don't know. It was thrown in like they were almost, perhaps like you said, maybe they were just worried. Oh, maybe we don't have enough to fill all this.
Maybe we're going to get a
wait, we do after all. Never mind, guys.
Give old veterans a chance. Hashtag no.
I definitely got the feeling that the original plan was supposed to be a 6-man, the New Day versus this trio, and it just all went off the rails when they first started the feud, and Big E got hurt. And for whatever reason, they decided they were going to keep going with this because they had programming to fill. And, it's a feud that has seemed disastrous in every way, shape, or form. And I hope people get something out of it, both the performers and the people watching. But right now, it's a hard one to watch.
Preet is on fire right here in the comments. He said Knoxville puts Paul's family's butts in seats. That's for sure. All right, so let's quickly. I want to let you go, Paul, because I know you're hanging out with family, but I want to talk about this NXT thing.
Yeah.
So you liked the show live. You mentioned that it was a really good show live. You actually liked it better than the ROH show. That the main event left a really bad taste in my mouth. I went to Dave's to watch the show, and I was just like, they have this great opportunity, and for whatever reason they want to muck it up. And I hope they have a good plan for it. I hope that I don't know what's bigger than this show for them, but I hope they have a good plan about what's next because, you know, they told the story is that Dolph's like, hey, I'm big time, and Braun, you're not. And Braun's like, okay, I'm not. I'm gonna lose. I was just so frustrated. I was like, what is going on here? But you liked the show, and that did not ruin the overall show for you.
No, I mean, it didn't help. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I guess like in my mind, like you're right. I mean, they shouldn't be beating Braun, but I guess in their minds they're calling him up. And I mean, I don't know what the point of bringing Dolph down there if he wasn't just going to put him over at the end. They could have just had Braun put over somebody else that's going to be sticking around, like Walter or something, you know. But other than that, like I really enjoyed the show. And I mean, it's a developmental show, and you know, and I know you always say, you know, they shouldn't get a pass. It's a big show, you know, all that.
They're on TV,
and you're right, but it is a developmental show, and it is like I compare it to the early takeover shows. You know, the 2014, you know, before they started signing all the indie guys. And in that sense, like, you know, I was happy and the crowd enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it. I was in the crowd. You know, I guess like there was no bad matches. I think Ciampa, like maybe the worst Ciampa match I've ever seen, but you know, and not even the best Tony D'Angelo match I've ever seen. So I don't know what that was. I think maybe something happened or something. I don't know. But yeah.
All right. Is there anything else live that we may have not seen on TV that you thought was cool, or anything you've encountered this you know, this entire weekend so far that you want to let us know about before we let you go?
No, I mean, you know what? I would say like I was following the comments and listening to you guys, and I think live, like I think the TV captured everything live. Like when I would hear people saying, you know, their crowd doesn't seem to be into this, maybe they're marketed well or whatever. Like every time that was mentioned, I was feeling the same thing live. So, but I would say in the NXT, the crowd seemed a lot hotter than it sounds like it came off on TV. Like there was a lot of chants that it sounds like didn't come through, but I'm almost wondering if they were deliberately not letting them come through. Like there's a lot of Walter chants, you know, and yeah, for LA Knight, and that wasn't, I heard that didn't come through very clearly at all either. I want to say that women's match, the 4-way women's match on the NXT show, that I was impressed with that. I was expecting it to be a lot worse, and I thought it was pretty good. Core Jade is terrible, but the rest of them were pretty good. Like Mandy's all right, and the other two.
I mean, you got one of the best workers in the entire company in that match.
And she was so over, like it was crazy. And I got some great shots of her like flying. I was impressed with myself on that.
All right, Paul, we're gonna let you go. Thanks for jumping on.
Great to see you, Paul.
Yeah, I enjoyed the show. I listened to most of it, and it was awesome.
I hope you have a great day tomorrow. And are you guys leaving tomorrow? Or
we're going to leave Monday morning, so we're staying here tomorrow night because I don't know when it's going to end.
All right, continue. Continue having a great time. It looks like the trip of a lifetime.
It was, yeah. All right, have a great show, guys.
All right, thanks. Take care, Paul. All right, so we have a question for both of you guys here from Antonio. He says, what are your thoughts on the mid-card titles? The fact that they're called the mid-card titles, I hate that they are sort of mid-card titles because they shouldn't be mid-card titles. They should just be titles that we respect and that we find the holders of those titles being right below the main eventers, below the world titles. But thoughts on the Intercontinental title, the U.S. title not being defended on this show, Steven?
I mean, I find it depressing as well. But right now, I mean, with the way that they treat those title belts, I mean, the Ricochet won the thing, and then has he won a match since? He won the rematch with Sami Zayn, and then he's just been getting beat. And so right now, that title doesn't feel like it really deserves a place on the show. The title should be on the show. It should be treated with more respect. But if they're handling it the way they are currently handling it, then what would be the point of having a Ricochet match on this show? First of all, they would have to make it non-title so they could beat him. That's the only thing they seem to be able to do with their champions these days is beat him in non-title matches. And it just seems like they are, I don't even know if their props isn't even the right word for it. They're just no respect put on them at all right now. So with that, I mean, do they deserve a spot on the show? Not the way they're being treated. The cure is to treat the belts a lot better, but they're both just kind of afterthoughts. If they were afterthoughts, would they be treated better than they are right now?
All right, Jeremy, any thoughts before we just kind of recap the stuff that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, a couple of things on that. It's unfortunate because Ricochet actually had a pretty good match against the Los Lotharios, where I would have called it a WrestleMania caliber Intercontinental title match with the concept build and execution of it on the show. It should have been a WrestleMania match, but as you can see, they didn't even have time for the matches that they already built for the card. In the past, we've had a number of legendary matches that included the Intercontinental title and the European title and the US title. All of them have had matches either with Cena, Jericho, Owen Hart, Bret Hart, the whole deal. Like, there are legacies to those titles and they should be respected more. I wish that they were, but there's only one person that's deciding that it's not important because they wanted to make one single title mean the most of everything in this show. And they made sure all the other titles were put off to the side.
Maybe that match should have been for like all 4 of those belts.
Yeah, why not?
Just let's put the Intercontinental title, the US title, what the women's tag team title. Let's put all those belts on the line for this match.
Legitimately, how hard would it have been for Roman and Brock to just take those 2 titles and throw it on top?
All right. So last couple things that we'll just go through the stuff that we hadn't talked about yet on this show. So the show opens with Nakamura and Boogs versus the Usos. And at some point, Boogs was trying to put both Usos on his shoulders, and it looked like his knee buckled. And it sounds like the injury was very legit. What did they say? Quad and patella,
Patella tendon and torn quad.
Rough for him. Sucks. It just really sucks, especially on this stage. And so what it sounds like is that they had a specific finish and they just kind of went home early. Nakamura got beat with the Usos version of the 3D. I don't know if they had to go home early. Like, the Usos are very good wrestlers. Shinsuke Nakamura is an excellent wrestler. Can we not audible something and keep the match going and get a little heat and then have them win with the finisher? Just what essentially they did was not even worthy of a SmackDown, end of the first hour kind of match. And that's your opener for WrestleMania. Steven, your thoughts?
You would think that they would be able to do something a little bit more, but it does seem like there was a bit of backstage communication with the referee panic, because you could see the referee hitting his little button there in his pocket to talk to the people in the back, and you knew Boogs was hurt. And that move's cursed, by the way, because Solo Sikoa tried the exact same thing in the NXT match and fell over sideways, almost hurt himself. So that maybe the whole double Samoan drop thing is not the best idea after all, but it does seem like they could have done a little bit more. But it's almost like everyone in the back was just like, oh, the hell with it, just end it, just tell them to go home, because you could see a lot of communication going on with the referee and the guys, and then all of a sudden, boom, the Usos version of 3D, and we're done. So someone in the back decided that enough was enough, and they didn't want it to go a whole lot longer. So it does seem like could have been a little bit more.
Yeah. So then we went to Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre. The beginning of this match was not fantastic, but then Corbin and Madcap were kind of not on the same page, gets distracted. So on this show, we had the manager getting yelled at for trying to distract and I guess doing a bad job. And then last night on the ROH show, in the main event, we had the manager get kicked out by his own guy by saying, you're cheating too much for me. You need to leave the match. So not a great last 2 nights for managers here. I thought the match did pick up, and the big spot here, and I'll let Jeremy talk about it in a second, which is they kicked out of the End of Days. Drew McIntyre went up sweet for this move.
Yes, he did.
And then Corbin hits it. They sell it as the match is over, and no, kicks out. Jeremy, what did you think about him kicking out on WrestleMania in the second match on night 1? And now Corbin cannot say that nobody is kicked out of this move anymore.
he's not undefeated and nobody has kicked out of, you know what I mean? I got word salad on that one, but yeah. It is the time to do it. WrestleMania is the big shot. You pick your spots and you choose them well. And look, when you're on the lower mid card and you have a feud with McIntyre, he's not the guy that's going to elevate you above the mid card because you're kind of slotted at a certain place when you face him. So if you're in the upper section of the card, he's going to be the guy that's kind of gatekeeping as you're going on to the next feud. And look, kicking out of the end of days and looking as strong as he did, Drew's got to be going for whoever is going to have the title after Mania. This has all been cultivated toward the strong challenger, just like Drew did with Roman a few years back before the pandemic. Like, this is Corbin's role. You make the end of days seem super special, and then when somebody kicks out, it makes the guy who did it more important. It's just simple mechanics of good pro wrestling.
McIntyre hits the Claymore for the finish, and then he uses his sword to break the ropes. Then to replace the ropes just for a spot in which he swings at Madcap with his sword. And then we had the Mysterios against The Miz and Logan Paul. Early on, I thought Logan was a little uncomfortable, but he sure got comfortable really soon. He is a natural heel. So, of course, they tried to turn him babyface at the end of this match. But he was doing Eddie Guerrero spots. He looked like a douchebag with his Pokemon 1-of-1 card around his neck in the entrance. Supposedly the highest sold Pokemon card ever in the world.
He bought it for $6 million.
Crazy.
1998 card. $6 million.
It was a Gem Mint 10. So then, it was a pretty good match. It was, there's some inventive stuff with the Mysterios. Miz, of course, he had to be in the match almost the whole time. I wouldn't say it was great in any way, but it served its purpose in that Logan Paul, I thought he did a really good job. I thought those guys carried him very well. I thought his mannerisms were great when he did the shimmy on the top rope and then the frog splash. The crowd hated him. Miz beats Ray with the skull-crushing finale. And then after the match, Miz turns on Logan, which I thought was awful because I'm like, wow, the guy actually got real heat from this crowd. He's very unlikable. What is the reason for turning him babyface at the end of the match? But I mean, they've sort of been setting that up though for the whole build. But any quick thoughts from both of you, Jeremy? We can start with you on the Mysterios against Logan Paul and the Miz.
Logan Paul tremendously surprised me. I think everybody else did exactly the kind of performance that you expected from them, but Logan Paul was kind of a revelation in the way that he performed. He was different than he was last year in that Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn kind of thing, and I feel like we're getting set up for some kind of SummerSlam issue between Miz and Logan Paul. But I got to tell you, if I were fantasy booking WrestleMania 40, Pat McAfee versus Logan Paul.
Why not next year?
I got to give it time. Got to build it up, Logan.
I wonder if they're trying to get Jake in because Jake was around and Jake's the bigger star than Logan is. And I wonder if they're trying to get them both together and maybe you bring back Johnny Nitro and it's Miz and Morrison against the Logan or the Paul brothers.
It was a good showing for him last night, and I could definitely see the other Paul brother being interested based off of the reception he got.
Yeah, for sure.
In the stadium in Los Angeles next year, that would probably be a pretty big draw. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, and I thought that. I mean, the match that Logan Paul I thought did terrific. I got a kick out of him doing the Three Amigos and the Eddie Frog Splash while Dom is wearing the Gringos Locos outfit.
I know.
So.
He legitimately did it better than I've seen a lot of people do the Eddie move.
Yeah, that was a really good Three Amigos on that. And I tweeted during the match, I just said, wow, Miz is not great in the ring. It's been a really long time since Ray really tried. Ray basically, Ray has his little 5 moves that he's going to do in about the same way in every match, and that's just Ray's act now. Ray's act is a little bit like a magician that you see doing the same 5 tricks. Like 20 straight TV appearances.
Right.
And I just said, well, they're trying to have a good match, and Dominic is doing everything he can to keep that from happening. And it's a hell of a contest. But that was the contest. It was those three guys trying to have a good match, and Dominic Mysterio being Dominic Mysterio and trying to drag it back down. He almost succeeded, by God. He's really bad.
All right. So quickly, we already mentioned, but just want to go over the finishes again. So Bianca Belair beats Becky Lynch with the KOD. She wins her title back. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. WrestleMania Backlash seems like it's gonna be rematches. So maybe we run this back, but maybe not. I wonder. Becky's been running pretty hard. Maybe she takes a little bit of time off. Because they're obviously going to be setting something up between her and Ronda. Ronda will have to figure out her Charlotte thing. So we have a full year to get there. But I'm interested to see the creative there. Again, Cody Rhodes beat Seth with the third Crossroads for the win in his re-debut. Ronda Rousey lost to Charlotte Flair with a big boot. Unfortunate way to lose this match, but Charlotte is a big deal. Ric Flair said it is the greatest women's match that he's ever seen.
I believe Rick believed it when he wrote it.
What did Andrade say?
I have no problem believing Rick believes that.
Yeah. And then we got Stone Cold Steve Austin, interview segment. Then he beats Kevin Owens with the stunner, and he's drinking beer. And poor Byron got to eat a stunner, or maybe not poor Byron, but he also got to eat a stunner.
He was thrilled.
Yeah, he's living his life. Okay, so WrestleMania Night 1 is over. Night 2, we have maybe the New Day. Maybe they put the New Day on the pre-show. Maybe it's New Day against Sheamus and Ridge Holland with the Little Rascal Butch. We have Queen Zelina and Carmella versus Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan versus Natalya and Shayna Baszler. We have Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. We have Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory, and we'll probably see Vince. RK Bro versus the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy. Edge versus AJ Styles. Bobby Lashley versus Omos. And, of course, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. So Steven will be back with me tomorrow night. Scott Edwards is going to make his debut on Bruise News. People know Scott from the Joshi show that he does, the 5-Star Joshi show. And he's been writing a column all weekend long about he's a maniac. He's watching so much stinking wrestling, and he's kind of putting it in a stream of consciousness in the diary. So check out fightgamemedia.com. You can see his stuff. Last thing, I haven't seen it, but I want to see it. Did either of you catch any of the Hall of Fame stuff?
Yes.
Was it good?
There were the Shad Gaspard segment had me visibly emotional just watching it. It was very well done. And then they gave 90 minutes to The Undertaker, 30 minutes of video package and Vince, and then 45 to 50 minutes of The Undertaker. And Undertaker has a strong future as a motivational speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he gave his life lessons to his success, and he spent 50 minutes talking about it, incorporating it. He'd been practicing this one for a good long time.
And so if you missed the ROH Supercard of Honor, we have a bonus show on the Patreon, Fight Game Media, patreon.com/Fight Game Media. The Boom guys, Kevin Neely and James B. McDaniel, did a 35-ish minute recap of that show. Brace for Impact. The Bros, Mike Gilbert and JD Oliva, did their review of the Multiverse of Matches Impact show. And so those are on the Patreon. We'll be back tomorrow on the Patreon, and I'm going to let official Lil Silver get this in. He wants us to know that in case nobody heard, the Briscoe brothers will be on Impact Wrestling this week. So that's cool. There's lots of interesting synergy going on in professional wrestling right now.
New mascots for the Brace for Impact boys.
Yeah, totally. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to sign off with? Steven, where can we find you on Twitter? All that good stuff.
Well, I'm in Steven Conway 88 on Twitter, and as far as night one goes, I thought it was a great success. I thought there were a lot of good matches. Thought there were a lot of definitely memorable moments. A very happy ending. Overall, I thought they did a good job with this one, and there's some very interesting stuff on night two. So I think tomorrow night we'll be talking about some more big moments and some big things. So I'm looking forward to it. And overall, it's been a good few days of wrestling. There have been some really good matches, really interesting cards, and this whole WrestleMania weekend, both the official events and the ancillary events that go on around it, it's really turned into a fun few days for everyone who loves this industry. So I've just been enjoying the heck out of it and look forward to tomorrow.
Jeremy.
You can find me at Finestone on Twitter, and I highly encourage you to click and subscribe to all YouTube media on Fight Game Media. That's the bread and butter. Please do.
All right. So, so Steven will be back with me tomorrow night. We'll get Scotty in here. Just keep up with Fight Game Media on Twitter. We're constantly, we have another show tomorrow. Actually, in about, let me think about this, less than 24 hours. Less than 12 hours. The Power Bombshells are going to do a live stream. So check them out. They're going to cover all the stuff that we didn't cover. All the ancillary programming, like Steven said, I know Sam's been watching a ton of stuff.
They're doing a warrior. They're doing.
He is a warrior.
Job.
Yeah,
they're doing a great job.
So, so check that show out tomorrow on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on podcast, it'll probably be coming up soon from when you listen to this. And then we'll be back tomorrow. Steven and Scott, and then it'll be great. So thanks to Paul for jumping on. It was great to get his live perspective, and he just kind of did a run. I had no idea that he was going to be able to do this, by the way. He just pinged me and was like, do you want me to come on? I'm like, great. Thanks to Steven, thanks to Jeremy. I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.